Russell, wait!
I really wouldn't be wasting time building a long intro, but yeah, a fair spoiler warning if you haven't watched Deadpool and Wolverine. In this video, we will be talking about the 20 most incredible deleted scenes from all the 3 Deadpool movies. So without further ado, let's cut to the chase. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Deadpool 2016, the extended freeway scene. In the movie, the freeway scene is one of the most important parts because the movie is basically divided into 3 parts: the torture pit, the highway fight sequence, and finally, the final battle. And the rest of the story takes place between these 3 events. So anyway, in the freeway scene, Deadpool was being, well, Deadpool, when Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead arrive. We'll call Negasonic Teenage Warhead NT because it's short. I know, it's an awesome superhero name, but you know, bear with me. Anyway, Deadpool asks about NT, and Colossus introduces her as a trainee, and the scene cuts to Deadpool saying how the X-Men left these 2 on shit detail. Now, this happens in the movie, but in the extended and now deleted scene, Colossus says trainee, and Deadpool only hears, oh, an opportunity for a joke, or multiple jokes. He compares Negasonic to a trainee waiter, but of course, NT doesn't give 2 hoots about it. Deadpool then asks her about her powers, and she's like she can see the future. Again, not true. But she does the whole psychic act and tells Deadpool his future. And boy, she was correct. So NT goes, "You're gonna say something stupid." And the merc with a mouth tries his best, but ends up saying something about sex. Anyway, we move on to the scene where Colossus asks Deadpool to come with him. And of course, there's a little something about Russian sex dolls, but we don't need to talk about it here, because, you know, the god of YouTube monetization watches us all. But more importantly, Deadpool tells Colossus the truth about Francis Freeman, aka Ajax, and how he cooks up homegrown mutants that the X-Men ultimately have to fight. Nevertheless, Colossus continues to convince Deadpool to join the X-Men and use his powers for good and all that, but he doesn't listen, of course. This part felt a bit stretched out, and I was glad that they cut it out of the movie. Overall, I think a few of these could have been included. The Cancer World Tour. One scene they chose to cut actually shifts the entire movie's perspective and clears up a lot of lingering questions fans had about the final version. In the final cut, we see Vanessa's desperate quest to find a cure for Deadpool's cancer. The edited scene, called Cancer World Tour, shows her doing exactly what Deadpool predicted, dragging him all over the world to try every possible treatment. As usual, Deadpool narrates, telling us they've tried everything and are now at rock bottom, landing in a dubious clinic in Guadalajara, Mexico. Deadpool has already given up, but he keeps it to himself, letting Vanessa hold on to the hope of a cure. He spends what little time he has left indulging her in this fantasy. In the waiting room, Deadpool bitterly observes other hopeless patients, all clinging to their own illusions, and struggles to keep his anger and sadness in check. He overhears a mother trying to pay for her son's treatment, but the nurse coldly insists she won't take pesos, only American cash. When the boy reaches for a sucker, the nurse says it'll cost extra. Deadpool steps up and covers the cost. Still, something gnaws at him. He watches the boy sit down as an older gentleman, whom Deadpool had been talking to earlier, goes in for his appointment. Deadpool, in a voiceover, reveals that he's at the end of his rope. He's willing to spend whatever it takes to indulge Vanessa, but he can't stand to see more innocent people being exploited. Deadpool sneaks into the operating room and discovers the scam. This so-called miracle cure isn't a cure at all. The practitioner performs a sleight of hand trick, pretending to pull the cancer out without any real surgery, using a piece of animal organ as the tumor. There's a bit of blood, but no incision. They claim to have healed that too. After the older gentleman leaves, believing he's been cured, Deadpool confronts the practitioner. Deadpool dryly comments that the bucket of removed tumors smells like chicken. When the practitioner reaches for a scalpel to defend himself, Deadpool's already taken it. Deadpool snaps. He brutally beats and stabs the man. No fancy moves, no witty banter, just raw, vicious murder. Blood is everywhere. The staff and waiting patients rush in, Vanessa among them. Deadpool, now in unbearable emotional pain, realizes what he's done. Vanessa sees it too. This wasn't a job. It wasn't done with any efficiency. Deadpool wasn't acting as a mercenary. He was a murderer, on the path to becoming Deadpool. Deadpool runs, fleeing the scene as Vanessa screams for him, but he's already gone. I don't understand why this scene wasn't included in the final cut. It addressed addresses many of the issues people had with the characterization of both Deadpool and Vanessa. I mean, why, despite Deadpool's obvious distress and signs of mental illness, couldn't he just go back to Vanessa and show her his scars? She didn't seem like the type to judge him for his appearance, and that wasn't the real issue. Deadpool's reluctance to show her his new face wasn't just about his looks. It was about what he had become inside. Vanessa fell in love with a man who killed people but wasn't violent or unhinged. Anyway, it is what it is. Gratuitous, worth it. This was a really short one, but totally worth it. Yep, gratuitous and worth it. So after Deadpool killed Ajax, he was wondering what he was going to tell Vanessa when she comes from behind and shoots an already dead Ajax a couple more times before throwing the gun on him. Deadpool 2, park bench scene. In this quick 30-second scene, we find Deadpool sitting on a park bench, about to end it all. He's muttering to himself about his heart being in the right place when an elderly couple casually joins him on the bench. They don't seem fazed at all by the guy in a red mask holding a gun. Deadpool tries to convince them to move along, but the old man, stubborn as ever, replies, "It's a free country." Deadpool concedes, then throws in how much he loves their work in the movie Up. That one's a classic, isn't it? Just as he's about to pull the trigger, Colossus appears, towering over him, knocks him out, and drags him away, apologizing for Deadpool's loss. That's one weird way of apologizing to someone. The one with Adolf the Cute. In the super duper cut, we see Deadpool trying to psych himself up to kill a baby, who's eventually revealed to be none other than baby Adolf Hitler. Just as he's about to do the deed, the scene cuts off, leaving us without actually seeing him kill Hitler. The extended version sets things up a bit differently. This time, Hitler's identity is revealed much earlier, but it mostly unfolds the same way until Deadpool reaches in to grab the baby. In this version, though, Deadpool actually picks up baby Hitler and cradles him. While gently bouncing him, Deadpool muses that maybe Hitler's real issue was that no one ever cared about him. Then, noticing the baby's dirty diaper, Deadpool figures that Hitler might have turned out to be a little bastard because no one bothered to change him. The extended scene wraps up with Deadpool deciding to change baby Hitler's diaper instead of killing him, admitting he doesn't have it in him to murder a baby. He even jokes that he'll just change the diaper and bring in Cable, who's got a real way with kids to handle things. Opening montage. The scene starts just like in the theatrical cut, with Deadpool mentioning he's gone international. Yeah, right. But in the super duper cut, some of the jokes get swapped out. In Hong Kong, the merc with the mouth crashes straight through the high-rise window to confront a group of Chinese bad guys. Here, he drops a different line in the super duper cut. Instead of counting in Spanish, uno, dos, tres, cuatro, like in the theatrical version, Deadpool realizes he's in the wrong place, saying, sorry, I thought this was Gilbert's. An anal bleaching party. I mean, what? Anyway, this version also ditches the sea breeze joke from the original and pretty much replaces it with a moment where Deadpool puts out the terrified bartender's cigarette, telling her it'll kill her before he leaps over the bar and hilariously takes everyone out. In the Sicily funeral scene, where Deadpool pops out of a casket, there's an added bit where one of the gangsters tries to escape. Deadpool takes him down with a shot to the head while vaulting over a tombstone, throwing some shade at Steve Rogers with a quip. You don't see Captain America doing that, as the gangster's briefcase of money bursts open. More of Dopinder the Great. After Deadpool escapes from Sergei Velishnikov's thugs, the scene with Dopinder driving him home plays out just like in the theatrical cut. However, in the super duper cut, there's an extra moment when Dopinder drops him off. Deadpool tries to pump him up to pursue his assassin dreams in the most Deadpool way ever. I just wish I could say it out loud, but you do remember the YouTube monetization god, right? Anyway, when Deadpool gets inside and faces an impatient Vanessa, there are a few additional bits where he tries to explain why he was late. He rambles on about launching gluten into space, a line seen in one of the trailers, and throws in some talk about diarrhea. Opening scenes. The hilarious opening credits, which are a clear homage to the elaborate James Bond intros, have a few tweaks here and there when compared to the theatrical version. While the footage stays the same, the parody credits shift slightly. Instead of film editing good luck bringing me back duckheads, we get film editing good luck bringing me back duckheads, followed by starring, obviously, someone who hates sharing the spotlight. The line, written by the real villains, a riff on the first movies written by the real heroes, is replaced in the super duper cut with "Writers, I blame the writers, real heroes my ass." Lastly, cinematography blind Al is swapped out for cinematography someone who would literally film anything, before the sequence wraps up with the same cheeky director's credit, directed by one of the guys who killed the dog in John Wick. The suicide. After Deadpool leaves Sister Margaret's, he heads over to Blind Al's to grab a hidden stash of cocaine, letting her know he's about to do something incredibly stupid. In the theatrical cut, we jump straight back to the opening scene where Deadpool is lying on top of gasoline barrels, ready to blow himself up. But in the super duper cut, there's an added imagery montage of different ways Deadpool envisions offing himself. In the first scenario, Deadpool, still wearing his mask, visits a zoo and admires the polar bear exhibit. He tells a curious little kid that he's a superhero named Captain Delicious Pants before diving into the exhibit, where the polar bear promptly eats him alive. Next, we see Deadpool chugging clog cleaner while standing on top of a skyscraper, then jumping off. A group of people gathers below, and one woman remarks, "I can't believe he's still alive." Lying in a pool of blue blood, presumably from the clog cleaner, Deadpool quips back, "I can't believe you left the house with that shirt," before getting up. Then it cuts back to Deadpool on the barrels. Before flicking the cigarette to ignite the explosion, he makes one last jab at the studio, saying he needs to find another way to die harder, trademark Fox. New intro for Firefist. In the super duper cut, right after the brief moment where Colossus drags Deadpool into the X-Mansion, we get a new scene introducing Russell, aka Firefist, as he's brought to the Essex house for mutant rehabilitation, also known as Broadstone House. As Russell arrives, he's greeted by the headmaster, who tells him there's no need to worry about picking locks here because there are no locks on the doors or bars on the windows. The headmaster goes on to say that all the children stay because, deep down inside, you know you're unfit to leave. The scene wraps up with the headmaster saying they can fix that before giving Russell a hug and whispering, "Blessed are the wicked who are healed by my hand." Fridge scene. The super duper cut shifts up the scene where Cable meets the two rednecks, played by Matt Damon and Alan Tudyk, and adds a brief moment where Cable robs a store for supplies in the middle of the night. This leads us back to the X-Mansion for the fridge scene. While Colossus is out on the lawn working out, Deadpool is in the kitchen, grumbling about the state of the labeled food in the fridge. Frustrated, he tears off a piece of masking tape from an aluminum container and replaces it with custom Velcro labels because, of course, he somehow found the time to make those. Negasonic, Teenage Warhead, and Yukio walk in, catching Deadpool mid-rant. Yukio wonders who he's talking to, while Negasonic, unimpressed, asks why Deadpool is dressed like a registered sex offender. Deadpool keeps going on about the fridge, but Negasonic sees through his nice guy act, calling him out. Deadpool, unfazed, claims the X-Men have rubbed off on him, and that he hopes he's rubbed off on them too, before mentioning he needs to hunt down some dust bunnies. Colossus completely buys it, but as Deadpool leaves, he flicks off Negasonic, giving her a bit of a parting shot. The one with Wolverine. The post-credit scene where Wade travels back to various moments in time is mostly unchanged, but there's an interesting tweak in the X-Men Origins Wolverine segment. In the theatrical cut, Deadpool still takes out the other version of himself, the one with the sewn-up mouth, telling Wolverine that he's just cleaning up the timeline. In the super duper cut, Deadpool says the same thing, but adds a little extra from the future, telling Wolverine that he's eventually going to hang up the claws, and it's going to make a lot of people very sad. Then he adds a cryptic message. But one day, your old pal Wade is going to ask you to get back in the saddle again. And when he does, say yes. Ryan Reynolds has been vocal about wanting to bring Hugh Jackman's Wolverine into this R-rated franchise. But whether that will happen, or if Jackman is even up for it, remains to be seen. Deadpool and Wolverine. Robert Downey Jr. cameo. Originally, Robert Downey Jr. was supposed to cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine as Iron Man from the 616 universe, which would have been a payoff to the joke about Deadpool trying to join the Avengers. This happened early on in the movie when Deadpool went to Happy Hogan for an interview. However, the Robert Downey cameo as Iron Man would have messed up quite a few things, so this cameo was cut because Marvel decided to have Downey Jr.'s first return to the MCU as Victor Von Doom, aka Dr. Doom. Now, Dr. Doom is supposed to be this really serious character, and getting Robert to play Iron Man in a movie that only knows how to have fun would have been confusing for the audiences. I mean, the same guy cannot be playing two characters in the same universe, especially when both these characters are so fresh and popular. Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider was initially planned to be in the movie, but the cameo was removed mainly due to budgetary reasons, as the character would have required extensive CGI. I mean, you can't possibly think of getting Nicolas Cage in his full-on Ghost Rider avatar without actually spending a lot of money, and the number of cool cameos they already had took a lot of money, and I guess Chris Evans took the biggest check when it came to cameos. Chris Evans' Human Torch. The post-credit scene originally planned to feature Chris Evans' Human Torch dying in a humorous callback to an earlier joke in the movie. However, this was also cut. In fact, Deadpool even mentions in the film about just how expensive Chris was. But you know what? I kind of feel weird about the fact that he was given such a horrible exit. I mean, Human Torch. Or maybe I'm being way too sentimental. Yeah, I think that's what it is. The love for Cap asking respect for the Human Torch. Classic X-Men cameos. The movie originally included more flashback scenes showing how the X-Men were killed by humans in Wolverine's universe, but these were cut. Characters like Storm and Cyclops were mentioned, but did not appear due to these cuts. I believe this should have been a part of the movie. We really needed to see the extent of things Wolverine did to mess his universe up. Ben Affleck's Daredevil. There was a scene with Ben Affleck reprising his role as Daredevil, which was cut due to budget constraints and because his role would have been minimal, similar to Henry Cavill's. Mephisto as the villain. Initially, Mephisto was supposed to be the main villain instead of Cassandra Nova. This was changed because Marvel had already filmed scenes with Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto for the Ironheart series, and they wanted the movie's villain to tie more closely with X-Men mythology. The nude dance. During the Deadpool and Wolverine press tour, Hugh Jackman spilled the beans on this really wild deleted scene. According to Jackman, he heard there was supposed to be a full song and dance number featuring Wolverine. And get this, while he was naked. In an R-rated film, this isn't totally off the table, though it might be a stretch for the MCU. While it might sound outlandish for Wolverine to be dancing, it actually wouldn't be too surprising given Hugh Jackman's impressive background in musicals. He has starred in productions like The Boy from Oz and The Music Man, snagging a Tony Award for the former. His on-screen performances in The Greatest Showman, Happy Feet, and Les Miserables also showcase his musical chops, so a musical number in Deadpool and Wolverine could have been a fun addition. That said, it's not really Wolverine's style to break into song, especially in the buff. But in the multiverse-driven world of Deadpool and Wolverine, anything is possible. Although Ryan Reynolds has already mentioned the scene, it seems it won't make it into the theatrical release. However, if the scene was filmed, there's still a chance it might be released in the future, giving fans the opportunity to see Jackman's Wolverine showing off his dance moves. I'm the best there is at what I do. Deadpool and Wolverine is packed with so many fan-pleasing moments that it's hard to keep track, and Ryan Reynolds just added another one to the mix on X, and I believe this one has to be the best one of the lot. He shared a clip that might be a deleted scene or just a bit of marketing fun, but either way, it's something fans will love. In the video, Hugh Jackman's Logan drops that iconic line from the comics, "I'm the best there is at what I do, but what I do isn't very nice." The twist? Reynolds' Deadpool is holding up a cue card with the lines on it, jokingly calling it the Brando method of acting. It's a playful moment, and hopefully there's more like it on the way. Earlier this year, Jackman shared how he decided to join the MCU, saying that the idea to team up with Reynolds came to him like a bolt of lightning. He explained that ever since he saw Deadpool 1, he knew fans wanted to see Wolverine and Deadpool together. It had been in the back of his mind, and one day, he couldn't wait any longer. He called Reynolds and said, "Let's do it." Jackman was so excited, he hadn't even told his agent before committing to the film. So yeah, these were the 20 most incredible deleted scenes from the Deadpool movies. We've done this for every major franchise too. For instance, the Alien movies, the Predator movies, The Thing, the Terminator movies, and pretty much every major horror movie franchise. You may want to check those out. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.